Okie dokie. Reginald here. Hope that title caught your attention because we have some serious matters to discuss. This is going to be as comprehensive a review of the Darktide game balance as I can make on short notice. We'll be talking about both buffs and nerfs today. I've actually struggled with where to start. I think I want to begin with enemy spawn compositions, but first, let me just offer an apology. A lot of people felt that I came off as elitist or dismissive of their interests in the game balance in my last video. Fair enough, my bad. I am a guy who makes spreadsheets about a video game. I am not always the best at talking to people, and I'm working on it. A big part of the problem appears to fundamentally stem from a lack of clarity around what my actual complaint and proposed solutions were, so people felt I was trying to giga-nerf everything with no regards to things that are super weak or need buffs or take out the fun and spectacle of the game. I am going to try and fix that misconception in this video. To do that, I am starting with enemy spawns. For a while now, enemy spawns have been in an unhealthy state. I think this is like patch 14 or 15, right after the tree was released and the game was simply way too easy for the massive power jump the players received. To fix that, we went from waves of 6 crushers being a cool, super dangerous rarity, nearly a boss spawn of its own, to oops, all gunners, every fight. Walls of bulwarks and crushers are lining the screen and smothering me with their fat hit mass. Now there is a certain charm to blowing up a wall of elites and hearing the monkey neuron activation sound of a pile of elite kills. I get it. But most people that I speak to, or complaints by players that I read around the forums or elsewhere on the web, that are hitting their heresy and higher arc in the gameplay difficulty, are actually finding this balance really unpleasant and punishing. It's not fun for them. And probably not for you. And even though I'm an evil, elite, giga sweatlord, I don't like this either, and most of the people in my bracket don't either. In fact, I can't find very many people who actually like elite spam difficulty. Look, maybe there's a target market for whoa, 900 crushers upon ye, but I haven't seen them, and I talk to a lot more people than most in this hobby since I read all my comments and actually listen to new players too when they come to talk to me. So we could probably change this because basically nobody likes it. Here's the problem, though. What is the predicate for needing this kind of difficulty in the first place? Why would Fat Shark have put it in, considering the feedback has generally been negative? The answer is player power, but not all player power was created equal. Some things are a lot better than others. The issue here is that some things are actually without any easy limitation on the number of enemies they can efficiently fight. Think of the Inferno Flame Staff or Rumbler for a moment. They have infinite cleave, so it can damage anything on the screen. So you have to start sending waves of heavier enemies on a higher frequency at the player constantly to slow them down, or they just breeze through the map because they can blow everything up. Don't worry about speed running mechanics, we're not talking about that today. The entire point of enemies in a video game is to spend players' time. They are a blockade to the objective, to progression. You're supposed to contend with them. But if you can ignore them, then they might as well not exist. Many weapons delete enemies so quickly that a wall of crushers is really no different from a wave of poxwalkers. Okay, are you with me so far? This is a fundamental gameplay problem, and it is not easy to fix. I don't have the best idea on how to do it, but I do think that this problem is unfun for most players. Either enemies are trivial and destroyed by certain mechanics to the degree that you can mostly walk past them, or you intentionally kneecap yourself and run significantly worse gear, but this gear then can't easily keep up with the insane spam required for the otherwise good gear. If you buff everything to this level, suddenly you need to spam even more enemies, because now, no matter what anyone runs, there is no challenge. However, if you nerf everything down to the other thing, you're going to have to take enemies out. This is why I believe that there is actually some room for nerfs here, and they are important. Because as much as I do love the spectacle of Rumbler spam, it probably shouldn't be the benchmark of how the game has to be balanced to encourage a good, new, and old player experience, both of which are very important to the longevity of Darktide. Okay, let's take a tangent here and talk about some decision-making paradigms for balance. I just want to call out that I watched Mr. E's video on this so-called controversy, and it's pretty good, and he talks about the various parties who are interested in the balance of Darktide and the state of the game and their conflicts. Well done. In that video, he discusses his 3 major parties, which I will summarize as Sweatlords, Casuals, and Fat Shark's Wallet. He provides a pretty good typification of their general interests in the game and how they are in conflict with one another, and even proposes a pretty tidy solution. The link in the video is in my description if you want to go watch it. I want to add some additional ideas here to play with, since my focus is mostly on the game balance and the difference between the opinions of the Sweatlords and the casuals and how to make the game good for everybody. That Shark's Wallet takes a back seat for me. There is a tool I use when trying to think about other people and the game's balance or future, called personas. Here's some extremely simplified ones for brevity's sake. Number 1, challenge gamer. Enjoys skill expression, doesn't mind losing, doesn't care much about extrinsic rewards, likes epic fights, likes saying I beat that, enjoys core mechanic, likes skill curves, enjoys beating content by playing well. Fun times gamer. Just wants to goof around while playing a game, doesn't take it too seriously. Likes spectacle, likes feeling powerful, doesn't care about core mechanics, likes vibes and feels, enjoys beating content by playing. Number 3, power gamer. Wants to min-max to optimize for victory, likes winning, enjoys beating hard things, likes victory, likes being rewarded for victory, likes carefully crafting builds to achieve victory, enjoys defeating challenging content by planning well. Casual gamer. Doesn't have a lot of time, might like a combination of these things but can't get too invested in any of them, enjoys a few rounds every couple of days and doesn't want to keep up with big changes. Has his couple of builds, probably wants to grab a beer and play with the boys on a weekend. Number 5, nerd gamer. Any of the above, but desperately attached to the 40k IP. Can easily be farmed for engagement simply by saying Arbites. All of these players are important and should be seriously considered in the balance of the game. Obviously, I probably missed a few types, and I excluded a lot of detail and template and formatting stuff on purpose so you didn't have to sit here for an hour with my particular brand of tism. One more detail for you to keep in mind that I try to keep in mind, which is what I call the pillars of balance. Darktide has 3 that I've personally come up with, and they're kind of how I think about these problems. The first pillar of balance is fun, spectacle, power, and feel. The game should feel good and look cool and be cool. Number 2, technical complexity, challenge, and room for growth. This is, sort of the skill curve of the game. Number 3, lore accuracy and representation. This is a 40k game, and if it felt like just a cheap skin of 40k, it wouldn't be what it is. For number 1, this is very important for new players, but also for older players' continued enjoyment of the game. There is actually nothing quite like a good bolter mag dump, and I still appreciate the fact that a lot of weapons just are awesome and have really good cinematic moments. For number 2, obviously getting better at the game and enjoying that glorious zone of proximal development, look it up, is a huge part of Tide games specifically. Challenge content is fun content. For number 3, speaking of the bolter, there is a meta in every game. The gap between good and bad weapons should definitely be reduced as a general rule, but if we have to pick what is good and what is bad, the lore powerhouses should probably be the better choices. The bolter should probably always be better than the auto pistol, or why am I playing a 40k game and not some other game? One last thing, I'm probably not going to explain this very well, but I'll do my best. My basic view is that all buffs concepts are bad because of the above power creep enemy spawn issue. But endless nerfs are also bad. Notice how I made this video about Helldiver's nerf problem some time back? The game was getting nerfed into oblivion. I even got invited to talk to some big streamers because my video was so popular. But the thing is, all buffs, no nerfs, or else you get review bombed, is also unhealthy for games because of power creep. I don't play Helldivers anymore, mostly because of this. At the time, there were people in my comments who were upset and really worried because they felt like their game was being taken away from them because there was a buffs-only plan that people were pitching that would ruin their fun game at max difficulty. And you know what? They were right to an extent. I personally didn't get it at the time because I didn't understand their worry. I just wanted more than one gun I could use to play the game. Helldiver's balance was horrendous at the time, but now it is way too easy to play and basically just a spectacle game. There's no reason for me to make a video like this one about Helldivers. No one needs it, no one wants it, no one would be interested. Balance is about shortening the gap between the most powerful and least powerful things. It's about pulling down the most overpowered outliers down to just be still probably the best would be fine, while buffing the least good, most horrible things to become good. The frame of reference is hard to define, but everyone knows OP when they see it and knows Dogwater when they play it. That's why a healthy conversation about balance within the community where people feel like their input matters is important. because this game isn't just for one person, it's for a lot of different people. Okay, with all on the table, let's talk about balance. Before we get started, because it appears this is something I need to say more often, based on my comments section recently, these are just like my opinions, man. If you don't like my opinions, we can talk about them and see if we can arrive at an agreement. I'm going to start with buffs and reworks because everyone loves those, but we are going to talk about nerfs next. Veteran. This tree has been worked 3 times and still blows. There's like one real build that you tweak a little depending on what ranged weapon you're taking. Recommended action, tree rework. Zealot. This tree also blows, but it's not nearly so restrictive and honestly not as weak as the vet tree. There are really like 2 to 3 good builds here with different value propositions, and even the weaker Zealot builds are pretty much fine until Havoc, so it's no big deal. But the trees feel bad to use, and I love the way the Ogren and RBD's trees are shaped to provide maximum freedom of choice. Recommended action, tree rework. Psyker. This tree also sucks, but isn't quite as nasty as the other 2. He is a glass cannon. And plays like one, in Havocs for sure. So I'm not sure what there is to say here other than he probably needs a bit of tuning up and cleanup. On the other hand, certain interactions go crazy, like Inferno Venting Shriek. Sure, you're squishy, but you have screen delete with minimal effort if your team can keep you alive. This is a tough one to balance because the power fantasy is in the high kill potential, but high skill players can abuse this to generate infinite scaling, which is a problem. Recommended action, tree rework. As a point of order, if the tree reworks for this class are shaped like the Arbites and Ogren trees, even if no nodes are buffed, the classes themselves will get buffed due to easier access to powerful nodes with less tax nodes. So the classes themselves will instantly be stronger by this alone. And so these are buffs. How about weapons? Vet power swords. These things are very strong to this day and one of the best weapons in the game, but they are also annoying to use. The relic blades are way cooler and more fun, in my opinion, and I propose reworking these into relic blade type weapons with heat mechanics. They might end up a hair stronger than they are now, but at least they won't be annoying. Ogren Power Maul. Buff this thing, please God. Twin linked stubbers. These aren't even guns right now, they are melee weapons with long arms. Please buff these too. But watch out for monstrosity damage because it goes crazy with PPV. Autoguns, Power Crept. Still decent, but not great. Small buffs required. It's okay if these aren't the best weapons. It's fine if they are mid, but they need to not be dumpster. Chainswords. Frankly, these blow. Everything from the weapon feel to the attack combos to clear times to sound effects is just meh. I would redesign these entirely. Eviscerators. Still kind of bad. I need to spend some time on a redesign for these sad, overly short Eviscerators. At least they sound pretty good finally, so good job to the sound team. Infantry las guns. These recoil way too much and have weirdly horrendous hipfire and stamina profiles. If they were less bouncy, they'd be more consistent to get headshots with, so they'd do more damage over the course of a game, so they'd be kinda good. Give them more ammo too, because just shooting them more won't ruin the game balance and serves the fantasy of the las gun man. Mark 12 chain axe. The Mark 4 is fine, but the Mark 12 is somehow still buns. Auto pistol. Built-in sprint hipfire is kick-ass and a great buff. But the gun shoots farts past 20 meters, and I can't figure out how to buff it without going back to the worst meta in DT history where it was stronger than the bolter. Vigilant autoguns. These are horrible. Give them maniac damage and maybe some 2x optics or something at least. Psyker Surge Staff. This thing is so bad, dude. Like, I've never figured out how to make this work for anything, so either someone tell me I'm wrong or please fix it. Okay, those are the buffs that I think the game needs to bring up the bad stuff to where the good stuff is. Keep in mind, we are nerfing enemy spawns as well, so there should be less things to contend with even as we buff things. Nerfs. I hope I've managed to convince you that nerfs do not need to destroy everything fun in your life, and can actually be good and healthy for the game and its longevity. Nor that they need to be heavy-handed and ruin things that you like. We all hate that. You can nerf something by 5% instead of 50% and have it still be super cool and good without potentially ruining the experience for the other 3 players in your lobby. Let's start with blessings. Skull Crusher. This blessing is actually crazy. If you've never seen anyone suddenly blow up a high difficulty boss and not known why, this is probably why. Max level Skull Crusher applies 4 stacks of 10% damage taken from all sources per hit on already staggered enemy up to a maximum of 8 stacks. So this means that if some guy swings his bonk sticks twice at the boss that is staggered or has concussive on their arbitrates, every other person on the team suddenly is doing 80% more damage to the boss. Your Thammer Zealot or Relic Blade Zealot or Ogren with Pickaxe suddenly is 2-shotting the Havoc 40 boss, 1-shotting the Heresy boss. It's crazy. Not only that, but 90% of the player base has no idea that it works like this, I'd wager from the conversations I've had for more rookie players. So their experience with this blessing is, randomly, some player comes along and blows up the boss they were excited to fight without warning, ruining anything resembling pacing or tension, and then they win the game and are never seen again. Pull this down to 40% and you've still got a super cool, super strong blessing that also doesn't specifically allow for you to snipe bosses like this. It looks like it'll only affect top-end play anyway and will allow bosses to be real enemies for everybody. Uncanny Strike. This blessing allows certain weapons to completely trivialize armored enemies. This isn't good for the game because it means we need to up armored enemy spawn rates by a lot to make them threatening, or they just fold over. Which means players now need to use weapons like this, or infinite cleave stagger damage weapons, to blow through all the thick bodies that just showed up. As mentioned above, this is a negative spiral, and we want to reduce elite spam to hopefully improve the experience of every player. So we need to remove some of the tools required to make individual elites trivial. Confidence Strike. I've played this footage a few times, I'm sure, but combined with Ogryn's DR and toughness regen, Confidence Strike is literally letting me fight 9 or so Plague Ogryn simultaneously without dying. No, you're not immortal with this on in high difficulty, but it gets close. That's probably not good. Just tune this down by like 5%, and let's see how it feels. If it isn't enough, maybe we look at the Ogryn tree itself, since it doesn't work on our BDs that well, but I don't think we should start there because Ogryn's OPness is actually just a few key things that need to be tuned down. But I don't think we should start there because Ogryn's OPness is actually really wrapped up in just a few key nodes that need tuning down. Speaking of Ogryn, Ogryn is cool. Ogryn is fun. I was a big advocate for him getting buffed back when he wasn't very good. But there are a few busted interactions that are allowing the player to do stupid things. I named a few already, but let's just look at the biggest problems. Go again. This just lets you spam Loyal Protector, which is insanely strong and shouldn't have quite so much uptime. Look, we can just reduce the power of the regen built into this node and let Taunt be amazingly powerful less often. Batter is not that crazy. It makes weapons with lower time to kills better. But one problem it has is stacking lots of bleeds on lights easily and quickly. Combined with attack speed buffs in the heavy hitter tree, this means you can hit max bleed stacks really fast. If we just reduce the light attack application from 2 to 1 stacks per hit, problem solved. Great talent node, but immediately less busted. Fire Away. I love this talent, actually. It's cool, but we need to get rid of the 1 stack burn on outer radius. The outer radius on some of these explosives is huge, and it lets you easily and quickly soften, then eliminate big groups of targets in big areas. Maybe we could stick like 3 stacks on direct hit and 2 stacks on inner radius. I don't know. That way it's not a total nerf, it's just a rework. Arbites. This is our new class, and he does need time to settle. My recommendations for balance here are rough, and we'll need time to collect feedback and input from the players and study the testing. Arbites is super freaking fun to play, however, but there's very mixed opinions on his balance. I will say most players, including new players, agree he is insanely strong. But some of what makes him strong is just his safety. He's very safe in stupid situations as a lone actor and has some amazing damage output at the same time. But his melee damage output from my ongoing testing is not as great as I was expecting. It's just very, 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 very safe. While his range damage output is busted good on some specific weaponry. I would say we have to be very careful with nerfs on this class because I think he's actually only got a few nodes that are pushing him over the line, and if we hit too many things at once, we might blow him up and make him dog water. So a little caution here. Key nodes to nerf on that note. Walk It Off and Force of Will. These 2 nodes needs to be tuned down a touch. Make Walk It Off 10% over 3 seconds, and I think that's probably going to be okay. I mean, you'd have to try it to see. I obviously don't want him to fold over in every conflict, but I think that would probably make it still really strong, but like much more like risky to be in bad positions. Force of Will will make, I think we just tune this down by 2%, so we make it 8% instead of 10%. This class does not have a ton of DR besides abilities, but he does have a lot of toughness replenishment options right in this cluster at the top of the tree that will be untouched in this change that I proposed. This feels great, but makes him unthreatened in a lot of situations, though. So on the one hand, that's great because he's a solid line holder character that can kind of tank, which feels awesome. But he also needs to not be able to be just immune to punishment by his enemies if he plays like a complete idiot, and right now that's actually not happening much. I think these 2 moderate shifts would probably improve him a lot. Mallocator is just a CDR node that makes Castigators and Nuncio have a lot more uptime. Both of these abilities are incredibly strong by themselves, and so if we don't want to nerf the heck out of them, we should probably make them less frequent at least, so that you can't just spam total damage immunity every like 27 seconds or something. Castigator's stance. Castigators itself is wild and maybe needs tuning down itself. but I'm leery on immediately hitting it with the Nerf map before seeing how it plays without CDR. Look, maybe God mode every 45 seconds is okay, but maybe it really isn't. But God mode every 27 seconds or whatever it is definitely not okay. The game just has too little chance to punish you if you're God every 27 seconds. I don't think that's the real time, by the way. Still, another solid option that's been proposed would be to address Castigators by pulling down its DR to around 70%, or maybe making it 80% ranged or 30% melee DR, I've heard people talking about. Or maybe taking out the instant toughness replenishment from the talent, it's 100% toughness on reactivation, and instead giving it a subnode where you buy that you have to buy to get this toughness, or maybe making it 50% or something. And keep in mind, I have already said that we should nerf Walk It Off and Force of Will, and that will, by definition and interaction, make Castigators a hair weaker since easy toughness replenishment is part of why the 80% DR is so strong. You can just overcome any incoming damage for the most part. Drive them back. This should only apply to melee weapons. Weight of the Lex should not apply to grenades. There's more we can talk about, but I favor a slow and steady approach. It's really easy to change too many things at once and go from wow, this is busted to wow, this is dog water. Someone please call my Cybermastiff. He's probably thirsty. So, you know, I want to be cautious. Concussive. The nerf to Skullcrusher proposed above solves some of the problems this nose represents, so start there and worry about concussive later. Weapons. Rumbler. The Rumbler is my favorite Ogren weapon by a fat mile. It's amazingly fun, but I'm not really allowed to play with it anymore because it just turns off the game. The reason it does this is due to its massive AoE stagger radius. Reducing the outer stagger radius and power while retaining the inner effect will allow the player to continue to blow everything up, but won't prevent enemies from aggressing on the player as much. It may make sense to consider pulling the stagger threshold down enough that you cannot stagger crushers with it, so it at least, like, something can push you while you're firing its fusillade of death. But that's a look at, not a hard do it, so I don't know, play with that idea. Harsolus Pickaxe. For a long time now, this thing has been silly easy and silly good. Honestly, I just pulled the cleave of its heavy attack down by a few notches. The damage is actually okay with me because it's a pickaxe, a two-handed pickaxe, on an Ogren. But I can kind of cut through far too many maulers with each swing, so stagger locking everything until it dies with really no threat to me is a little rough. I'm not saying we have to hit this thing hard. 5%, 10%, something light is fine. Psyker Trauma and Inferno Staff. I don't know how to fix the infinite cleave weapons with infinite ammo. These are cool, but also kind of busted. I don't have recommendations here, really. Maybe they just have to stay in the Sweats Avoid These bin for the sake of not ruining all the fun and immersion for other players. That's possible. The infinite cleave problem is in the infinite part, and it seems like a technical issue as much as anything else. So, I'm putting that one up there, but I don't have a plan. Dueling Sword. I saw the leaks. I actually don't like the rework very much. I'm pretty sure nerfing Uncanny will nerf the DS into armor enough to not have it be giga busted, and like maybe I'm wrong and it needs some further tweaking, but my feeling is that would be sufficient. Plasma Gun. I saw the leaks here too, and I actually have less and less of a problem with this gun over time. I just think its power should be moved onto its heavier attacks and moved away from its light attacks somewhat, which was what was proposed to my surprise. But better mathematicians than me seem to have suggested it can't even one-shot specialists on lights. With the proposed changes, that seems like a bad idea to me. Plasma guns should probably do at least as much single target damage as the Zerona revolver. Like, if I can't kill a trapper on a headshot with the plasma gun, but I can with a revolver, we probably have a problem. So the core pillars is, so just reference the core pillars if you want to understand what I'm talking about there. The Mark III Arbites shotgun. Man, I love this thing. I love fan shotguns. I love going bang and having everything I hit fall over. It's magical. But there is a problem. This thing has some of the best clear times into most targets that I've seen in the game. Mostly at shorter ranges, but it can reach out a little too far. I propose a preliminary reduction in minimum pellet count as a starting point, but I do need more time to study this. May need to draw in the TTK a bit, so it's literally not God mode to shoot this thing. But we also can't murder it by accident, because I'm not the only person who really likes this shotgun, and it is really fun, and I love shotguns in this game. Minimum pellet count is likely not to be felt by lower ranked players quite as much, because they don't even really understand it. And I have people in my comments daily telling me that this gun actually blows already because it has no range, which is just hysterical to me because of what you could do with minimum pellet count. But I understand why, and that leads credence to my suggestion that most people won't notice this anyway because they already think it's shorter range than it is. Frank's Mark III Shockmaul. This thing is cool, but its special attack does too much damage when the dot is applied, and in general, its stagger is really high. I think if we just rein that in, it's probably okay, but all of these changes are intended to be minimal. At the moment, I'm unwilling to touch anything else without more information and time. Like I said, this is a fairly quick balance guide for as comprehensive as I'm trying to make it. I have heard everyone's complaints about the class being OP. There are a lot of people who are not very happy with how strong this is. As much as people will say that it's just a tiny minority of sweats, there's actually a lot of people who've reached out to me who are more rookie in this game who've said they're not super happy about how it makes their games feel. There are also a lot of people who are concerned that the class is going to get nerfed out of the fun zone. And both of these perspectives are valid. For many of the more strident players, what I propose here will not be as strong enough in terms of nerfs actually, but nothing I have proposed here will break the bank. So my proposal is, can't we just test the waters a bit? I know there's always the concern that Fat Shark will swing the bat too hard, then leave something dead for 18 months. So I really get the worry, but instead of panicking and demanding that the game just spawn 90,000 more crushers to offset the endless power creep, can we please just look at some very carefully constrained nerfs so the balance ratchet doesn't only move in one direction? All right. We have one order of business on the way out the door. I accept that the way I came off in my last balance video was off-putting. That statements like, "This is not a fun way to play," read like elitism or being out of touch and not caring about the casual player base of the game. That's my fault. I don't always communicate well, and I understand the frustration of some YouTubers spouting some shit and getting a fun thing nerfed out of the game for no good reason. Or maybe some really unfun thing gets preserved because some streamers think it's cool or not actually that broken when you have God Gamer reaction times, which not everyone does. See the whole Spider-Man Black Panther thing in Marvel Rivals. I hope this effort to better explain my position has at least allayed concerns that I'm looking to giga nerf the world and kill all the fun on behalf of some tiny minority of players that want their balls busted all game. I understand, but sometimes forget that people believe I have a lot of power over the game because my subscriber count number has been going up. Pro tip, I actually don't. If I did, the combat knife probably would have been nerfed a long time ago. Most of the things that I want nerfed haven't been nerfed, so I don't think you guys have to panic because I say I want something nerfed. I am just trying to start a discussion about balance, and sometimes I am not always talking to the entire community, I'm talking to the audience of players who watch me most often. Sometimes I forget that sometimes I make a video and it goes out to more people than that. So listen, my apologies. But here's the other thing. My comment sections is one of the rare comment sections on YouTube where I read and respond to everyone, just about. I'm plugged deeply into the player base for this specific game, and I talk to players of all skill levels. Just the other day, I was asking for videos from lower skilled players to help me see how they play so I can understand them more carefully when making suggestions for about the game and how to make it better, so I can take their gameplay experience into consideration. I recently bought a friend, Darktide, and I was teaching them how to play while we were doing that so-called evil comms coordinated Archivum Sycorax speedrun. I am on team Make Darktide Good for Everyone. That's my team. Warm regards,
Reginald.
I would like to take a moment to provide an extra special thank you to Joseph Davison for becoming my second Oathmaker level member. Your support means a lot to me, genuinely. Thank you so much. I would also like to say thank you to Miles Williams Lewis for being an Adept level member for 5 months now. Thank you so much. It really helps out the channel a lot. And also, to my surprise, Fluff and Zimisk3 for becoming Adept level members this month. That's a huge deal for me. Thank you so much. Also, just a special shout out to all of the members who are supporting my channel and to Vinny especially, who has made many of my members members. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you to my members. You guys are awesome. If you would like a special shout out at the end of my video, you can join my channel by hitting the join button and becoming a member. Thank you everybody so much. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for visiting and bye-bye.